So we just got a new system software update for the PlayStation Portal, version 4.0, and this one has three primary changes, two of them being more quality of life. So that would be things like the volume adjustment here, where on the very top end, the Portal's never been overly loud. The speaker is okay, it does the job, but with it not being that loud, it was always a little bit weird where when you go to the very last notch of having some sound or none, it was actually way louder than what you're hearing right now. So you've finally got more options to play around with, like lower settings with the volume. So it's a lot more accurate. So that's great. The other thing you can do is adjust settings for the PlayStation Link device that you have connected to the Portal at the time. That's now in the settings menu. So nice to have that. But the big new feature here is finally having access to PlayStation Plus Premium cloud streaming in settings. So if you are a premium member, then you can now stream PS5 games directly on the Portal without remotely connecting to a personal PS5 console. Now it is in beta, and you have to go out of your way to turn this on. It's not going to be turned on automatically when you install the firmware, but when we hit OK here, it's going to boot us back to the home screen. Hit the PS button, and now we have a new prompt where we can either connect to a PS5 console or jump right into the game catalog, which it very much is in beta. You've got what I presume to be kind of a basic placeholder user interface, although I can't imagine it's going to really change too much because you just need a simple selection of games, and so we've got a row of titles here that we can start perusing, and Sony says they've got about 120 games on here right now that they're letting people mess around with, so it is very curated as far as like what you can and can't play. So it's over 120 games, but really it's like 200 something. I'm not sure why the PlayStation blog said 120. I'm counting like over 200 here. You've got a selection of classic games, some of the big AAA familiar, a lot of different publishers. It's not the exact game catalog you're going to see when you're perusing the premium catalog as a premium member yourself, but you are going to see nothing but native title ID'd PlayStation 5 games. So you can't play anything PS4. None of the PlayStation 3 stuff is on here, just these games. You will also be able to have your save data automatically sync, so you can play your game, you can continue a file, say, from the remote streaming directly on the Portal, then go back to your console, or remote play via the Portal that way, connect to the PS5. Your save data should be syncing back and forth, and that should be all automatic, which we'll try out here in a second. And it's also up to 1080p, 60 frames per second. So not too bad. And if you recall, when we tried out streaming when Sony finally launched the PS5 server blades, they were shockingly good, to the point where it's like, wow, it took a long time to finally have some PlayStation 5 server blades, but what Sony has done here is very playable, very usable, and it was expected that they would finally unlock this for the Portal via a system software update, and now it's finally here. So let's launch some games and try them out. Let's try out Tsushima. Always love looking at this game, and we've got pretty basic layout for what would be the PS Store listing, so all the compatibility notices and things like that. So it does look slightly different, but we'll see how quick we can get in here. We'll do this in real time too. It's probably the same amount of time it would take you directly on a PlayStation 5 console. It does take a little bit to sort of handshake with the server and get loaded into the game, but cloud streaming might not support game invites and voice chat. Well, that's fine. Kind of expected. And there we go. Not too shabby. Yeah, I am directly into my save file. So nothing all too different there. Still looks pretty good, although latency's latency's not great. It's usually a lot better right on PlayStation 5. Although admittedly I always jump into streaming on PS5 intermittently, just every so often, see if it's still like the same experience, I guess. Oh, this would be a good way to test the latency with the standoff portion here. See if I can actually get these guys. Well, that was kind of a decent window. Got that, dude? That was a little too early. That was actually my fault, I think. So a few items to note here. You can't use the create button, so no sharing, no taking screenshots, no recording. Not too surprising there. But there's really not much else to do. So just bring in the side menu. You can just close it if you want. Access PlayStation Link, or we can change our resolution from 1080 to 720. If you do that, it is going to have to do a restart. And your brightness, settings, same thing. You're going to have to close out, so kind of a pain there. But otherwise, that is that's it. There's really nothing else to it. Now it's more a matter of the experience at hand. So I messed around with this for about an hour, hour and a half, played a few games, and the clarity is insanely good. Between 720 and 1080p, every game looked as sharp as they otherwise would if the connection was, say, via remote play in my home network, where it's usually very solid. If there were any instances of compression artifacts, then I genuinely did not notice any, which is something that does occasionally pop up when I've streamed from a PS5 console directly for the PS5 games. Since PS4 and PS3, that happens often usually, but the new PS5 server blades, they occasionally hiccup, but so far they've been very good. Now, having said that, for whatever reason, the latency I was getting for this session was noticeably worse, which was surprising to me given just how close to native play streaming can feel directly on PS5. And that's where you're streaming a 4K 60 image. In that circumstance, Sony recommends 38 megabits per second, but for 1080p Portal gaming, they recommend a minimum of 13. Either way, my service greatly exceeds that, and my ping was anywhere from 10 to 31 milliseconds. Changing resolutions didn't really seem to make much of a difference on latency either, but again, this was a pretty short session across a few games. I will say, though, giving the Portal more utility by untethering it from a PS5 is a natural step forward, one that's still in its infancy, but if I can get a similar latency feel that I got when streaming on the console, then we're talking. Because frankly, if I'm at home on the console, I'm playing locally. That's just how it's always going to be. But with my Portal out and about, the possibility of, say, skipping the whole rest mode, wake up hassle over a long distance, and just connecting to a server and launching a game that way, I could see myself doing that, if Sony's server blades are up to the task. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. You take it easy.